Pleased to have Tony Gervasi back with us again today. And I learned a few things at the NAB show talking to Tony. In fact, that he is Intraplex and has been for quite some time. And Intraplex is not just a little product that is here in the broadcast field, but it is really all over the place and therefore has had a lot of time to mature and become a very useful product. And Tony, you're going to talk to us about the Intraplex and also this little audio processor you showed me. So
Yep,
please fill us in.
sure. So I'm going to share a screen here real quick.
Please do.
Okay, so the IPL 100N is basically our latest showing. And what's so important about this box is where, the previous IPL versions, the 200, the 100, 100 P, the 100 MP, they were purpose-built boxes. The 100 MP did composite, and it had its version of composite. What I mean by that is we did something called effective data packing before there was even micro MPX. We could take full AES 192 or baseband and bring it down into 1.2, 1.64 megabits per second. So so it was uncompressed linear composite with RDS embedded in 1.64, but that was a purpose-built box. The 200 is a two-channel unit, and the 100 was a one-channel unit, whether it had a display or not. So those were all running on FPGA platforms. The new platform I like to call the Ascent platform. If the Ascent Media Gateway is our multi-channel high-density solution that is being used by NPR and um, uh, uh, Sirius Satellite XM, Sirius XM, and whatnot, um, where we could put 32 channels or 24 channels of codecs into basically two rack units. And the platform of that is been translated down into our 100E, 100C, and 100N units. So the 100N is built on that Ascent platform. It's a multi-core processor, allowing us to add a lot of features to it that we can't add to the legacy units anymore. We just ran out of horsepower. We've pushed those boxes to their limits. This gives us the capabilities: monolithic board with a daughter board sitting on top for the processor. So that's actually easy to change out as we continue to add features to it. I'm going to scoot through. Here we go. So it kind of looks like our legacy or the legacy IPL units. Since this is a single channel unit, it's XLRs in and out. The All the way to the right, you'll see XLRs in for analog and digital. And that's either or. You can select either or, have auto backup back and forth. And then the outputs are analog and digital at the same time. All of our IPL units have 3 network ports that all can transmit and receive, as well as manage the box and ingest data. We'll talk about some of the called IP Connect shortly, which we're talking about using the just in the chase because you have phasing or you have time issues slipping between analog and FM and HD, where when we marry that information inside the IPL unit, there is no time slippage. Then we have our GPIOs antenna RS-232. The GPS inputs are either 10 meg 1 PPS inputs or use the internal GPS card, and those could be outputs. And then dual power supplies. Power supply can be either a 12 volt or we make a 48 volt version for people who want to hang this on cellular sites. Why would they do that? Because Intraplex also does a lot of government work, and we are in a lot of cellular sites for backups. Half of my job is really the U.S. military, Secret Service, FBI, the FAA. We basically supply the secure communication devices for all the government agencies. If it's a 3-letter agency, we're involved, as well as the city of New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, California Highway Patrol, California Office of Emergency Management, a bunch of other government entities.
Tony,
Yes.
2 questions. One, do you want the questions while you're talking, or do you want us to hold questions for later?
If it's why don't we hold them to the end and I'll run through this and then we can go that way if that's okay.
Okay. Well, then, since you're just on that, tell us a little bit about Intraplex, how old it is, and how you brought it to Harris, GatesAir.
Well, I mean, I've been with Interplex now for 8 years, and there was Steve Polson who was part of the Interplex government side, and then Ted Nahill for the longest time. was with Interplex. So they're familiar with the products, and now they're someplace else. I'm not going to mention. Um, I joined Interplex after leaving Nassau Broadcasting. Was there for 20 years as vice president of engineering and technology, and used a lot of these products. And I was asked to join GatesAir uh, um, to basically sell the products. Interplex started back what was it, 89, something like that. I have
87.
87, thank you.
You're
um,
welcome.
and they were one of the first companies to be able to channelize a T1 and to provide communications and split it apart for radio. And of course, everyone at one point had an Interplex box of one kind or another, a chassis that usually, if you used it for your STL, had the T1 card in it with the PT 153 or 150 and the 350 or the 353, 355 cards. And then what they called the DS64NC, which was a Ethernet card that allowed you to push Ethernet back and forth across the T also, which are still being used today. All of those products are still active. The chassis is still active. I mean, there's still a lot of radio stations that have them running and TV stations that have them running. We've upgraded them over the years from T1s to Ethernet by swapping out the CM card from a CM5 to a CM30. Though they're not as robust on the public internet as the IPL series, they're really those CM cards are really designed to work on private line networks and microwave and whatnot. They're really designed for the FBI and FAA and government agencies to replace. The broadcast side of it is really on the IPL series because they're just more robust when it comes to forgiveness of ones and zeros. So I've been this is my 8th anniversary. NAB this year was my 8th anniversary with Interplex. The products, these are all part of the Ascent platform. There's the Interplex Ascent down below. And then we have the 100C, which is a compact unit, the 100E, which is the unit that goes inside any fax or GX exciter. They're all fully compatible. They all do the same thing. It's just different form factors for what you're using for. The C was really a compact unit that was designed pre-COVID. It saved our butt during COVID because when the FPGA started becoming issues and chips started to become issues where people couldn't deliver, we already had these lined up ready to go. So we kind of pushed these out as fast as we can. And then with the 100E, also now the 100N, and there's some more products joining us here shortly. Feature standard in all the IPL units, multi-encoding. So any information coming in, any audio coming in, we can multi-code and send to multiple destinations. So we're not fixed on a particular coding rate for any audio coming in. So whether you're sending it on a main or a backup network, IceCast, Shoutcast. If you wanted to use it as your Shoutcast as a receive a stream as your tertiary source, you could do that, or primary if you wanted to. But we also can create an IceCast, Shoutcast with couple customizable GPIOs. Designed to really work with stream guys, but it's meant to replace your computer that you're using to stream. You can actually use this box because it's an appliance. Dynamic initiator is a little bit different than transversal servers, but basically it does the same thing. It's designed to transverse through NATs, especially if you're using it for you're using cellular or satellite as a transmission source. The problem with that is you have multiple natting and you have to use a transversal server or dynamic initiator in order for the connections to be made. Dynamic initiator allows the receiving unit to initiate communications to the sending unit, and by doing so, it punches hole throughout the firewalls and all through the NATs and allows the connection to be made. So actually the configuration for the entire system sits on the receive unit, and then it goes and talks to the send unit, dumps the configuration, the send unit builds the stream, and then sends it back to the receive unit. So this is perfect if you want to send it out to a remote and give it and just have it put in we have some Cumulus stations that was using it for NFLs, the IPL 200s, where they actually built the configuration in the receive unit as it was going out to NFL games, just plug it in and plug in the Ethernet ports, and it would wake up and make the connection back to the studio, and everything was done. There was no user intervention needed whatsoever. It just would wake up and come alive. Of course, they all have, you can do 1+1 and N+1 redundancy, and you can do SNMP traps and syslogs and all the good stuff. SRT. Secure, reliable transport. Video guys know this because this has been around for quite some time. The audio guys are just starting to get used to it. So SRTs, a lot of it is different than what we're used to using in the audio world of real-time transport over UDP. SRT needs bidirectional, but it's really bidirectional UDP. It's not TCP/IP. So TCP/IP, when it talks, it sends a packet. The receive unit goes, "Yep, I got your packet. Send me another one," and it receives another one. It receives another one. There's a lot of chatter back and forth. But as latency starts to get up and it has to buffer, the send unit starts throttling down. And you see that when you watch videos and it starts lagging, or your kids complain that they're watching, they're playing their video games and their lags, or what other type of adult entertainment you're using on the internet, and it starts lagging. We don't lag here. So we're just like Maria sitting on top of a mountain singing "The Hills Are Alive" with the sound of Griswolds, and we continue to sing, but it has the ability to ask for a packet back. So if something is missing, you can say, "Hey, please, I'm missing packets 2, 6, and 5. Please send those back," and it will send 2, 6, and 5 back and reorganize them. The receive unit actually, in this case, again, generates the request to send the information, because by doing so, it gets to look at the latency of the path, and if there's a lot of jitter or buffering issues, it will adjust the buffer and the jitter buffer dynamically. So SRT is it's available feature for the 100E, C, and N, and any new platform or any new IPL units coming out, it will be an available feature. It is fully compatible if you're using our micro MPX, or you're using our MPX, or if you're using our Synchrocast, it's fully compatible with that. And again, it works differently than our stream splicing. So stream splicing is great if you have only a UDP path or multiple UDP paths, and we'll talk about that shortly. So SRT. This would be dynamic stream splicing. Dynamic stream splicing, which is unique to Intraplex, allows us to take one or multiple streams that are 100% identical, send them out one path using time diversity, or multiple paths, and including time diversity with FEC. So what it allows us to do is send those streams out. The receive unit knows that, oh, I have 3 streams that I'm waiting for, and it waits for all 3 streams to arrive, compares the packets, and then issues out the output. Yes, of course, the more streams you have and the latency you have adding in the time delay will add to your buffer output. But if you have a critical stream that you need to stay up and running, this is the way to do it. I have a gentleman in South Carolina who has translators on DSL circuits for his AM. He has 3 of them. He had nothing but problems. He has one path out to each one of these. So we initiated dynamic stream splicing using time diversity. He has one stream in real time, one stream about 200 milliseconds out, and another stream about 600 milliseconds out. So by gathering all 3 streams at the receive unit, and then he spits it out, and then we gives him one clean output. This is basically the software of the 100N, and I have a demo. I have a unit working here that we'll look at. But it's a little. If you looked at the legacy units, this is with the one. This looks a little bit different than the 100C, the 100E, and the 100N, where it gives you a little bit different information. It's just a little sexier, a little sleeker, a little rounded. But the front panel, everything can be controlled on the one end right from the front panel. You can build streams if you want to, though it's a little, you know, a little difficult, or a little time consuming, going up and down, left and right with the arrows. But if your streams are in here, your configurations are in here, you can launch and stop streams from here. You can look at any alarms. You can launch profiles, because you can have multiple profiles located in a unit. So let's say this was our spare unit. I can have a profile labeled, KABC, and then a profile labeled KROC, and a profile labeled, I don't know, is there KPLJ? Anyway, have those profiles loaded, and I could label it like K-Day. I have K-Day 1 and K-Day 2, and that I could pull up those profiles. This machine will assume that profile at that point, including all IP addresses move, all the audio configurations, all of that, all the channel in, channel out configurations, all change with each profile selection. Again, just some of the features: AES3, AES67, AES192, IceCast, Shoutcast, Linear. All the codecs come in there, the Opus, AAC, all the flavors of AAC, MPEG. Not only do we use standard AES 192, which AES 192 at 16 bits is about a little over 3.2. It's like 3.3 megabits per second. At 24 bits, it's a little over 4.5. We can operate that way. We can operate with our effective data packing, which will again take that 3.2, bring it to 1.64. And if you really need some tight analog or AES 192, we can use micro MPX and transport micro MPX. Again, because we can multi-code, I could take the audio, I could take the AES 192 coming in and code it so it's going one flavor out one path, and then another flavor out another path if I wanted to use it for uh, a tertiary path like cellular and whatnot. Built-in silent sense, play out audio from the USB port in here. Um, there's also a feature that was shown at the NAB that is going to be released on the next firmware update. Um, we are going to do a forward and store, so you'll be able to FTP audio to this, give it a cart number, give it or assign it to a contact closure, and be able to play it. So this would be great if you needed to overlay a station ID, top of the hour ID, in very short order. We're actually going to be able to, you'll be able to dump a log down to it. The idea would be that it's going to act as a voice tracking box to either Zeta or Next Gen or Wide Orbit, where it will be able to gather the audio because of the way those systems work. As the log gets dumped down to it, it will dump down the audio. We'll do a first in, first out type situation. And it can either play just through a clock or through a closure. So it's not meant to take the place of an automation system, not whatsoever. It's meant to be your emergency. We lost all connections. We have no way to stay on the air situation. And this would keep you on the air. This is the audio processor we're talking about. We'll look at a live version in here in a second. Perpetual SoundMax. It's a 10 band audio processor, limiting with a multi-band high resolution. It sounds pretty good. It's one of those, there's a less more screen, and then there's this screen here. Yes, you can get in trouble with it and go back and start all over again. There's some presets. I'm working on some presets now because I have an exciter here at the house with a 100E card in it. So I'm working on presets here. Stereo enhancement, bass enhancement, great for a translator, great for an emergency audio processor that is out at your transmitter site, sitting in the IPL or sitting in the exciter. So that means you can send audio from any source into this unit and crank it up if you need it to. I would not, this is not meant to replace your Omnia 911, the 5950, or any of the Wheatstone, X3 products or anything like that. But for that $1,000 processor that you're looking for, this is built in. You can use it as a pre-processor if you wanted to. Let's say you had it in your 100N, you can process the audio coming into the 100N and send processed audio out to multiple destinations if you wanted to. Or you can use it as a final processor, and any audio coming into this box would be processed and then sent out to the transmitter that way. Synchrocast, fully compatible, the 100N, as well as with all of our Synchrocast boxes. What makes our Synchrocast unique compared to anybody else is that we have the ability to, again, we take a snapshot of the full modulation envelope. So when you're doing Synchrocast with us, we're not doing audio. We want the baseband. So that means your RDS encoder, your FMXI 4G, or your importer exporter, your audio processor, everything stays back at the studio. We then bundle it up into one of our IPL units, whether it's the 100N, 100MP, and then we'll send it out to your transmitter sites. We have a unique time date stamp header on it. That allows us to synchronize the FM and the HD. We have what we call a target delay on all the receive units. So we know that within 1 millisecond, we know what's being sent out to all the transmitters. And it allows us to make some minor adjustments to the timing to actually move interference. We're not changing the laws of physics. We're not doing anything different. What we're doing is making it much easier for the car radio to decode what it's listening to. All of a sudden, it can see two streams or two broadcasts that are 100% mirror of each other. So that's basically what makes our Synchrocast work a little bit different. Plus, we're using HD4, and we have special coding in our exciters and in our FMXI 4G importer exporter appliance that allows us to keep the HD synchronized at all times. That's something that is not built into Xperi. They don't have a way of doing it. They don't have a way of doing a start of message or start of transmit. It is free form for Xperi. When they send the audio out, all right, you don't know when it's going to start. Um, so, but we have fixed that within our hardware solution. Uh, by the way, I see Mike. Great to see you again. It's been I think a weekend, 4 days. Seen you more now than I've seen my kids. In Los Angeles, K-Day is in the middle of upgrading from the legacy Intraplex Synchrocast to the new version of Intraplex. I believe iHeart has some out there in San Francisco. There's 11 stations in the conglomerate, all doing various HDs. Bonneville has a big HD in San Francisco, which is they were just on two transmit sites. They're now on a total of 5, I believe, and have picked up another almost 1 million listeners using Synchrocast. It's really a neat system. A lot of people are chasing after us to try to get theirs to do it, and no one's been able to make it work solid yet, which is good. Live Look. This is basically our quantitative software that sits outside. It sits on a little computer anywhere on your network that it can interrogate any of the IPL units. But it brings up a graph that takes 5-second snapshots and allows you to see, okay, where am I having packet loss? Am I having drops? Am I having jitters? You can look at as many units as you want because you can pull up the graphs based by the unit number or by the IP address and the name. So it just basically gives you that. Also gives you logging capabilities for historical analysis, which we've used plenty of times to show Comcast that we're in an oversubscribed circuit or someone's having bad connectivity. Also can provide email notifications. IP Connect. This is where we're talking about where we can embed UDP data inside our audio or our composite and send it to the receive end. This is great for this is what we use for Synchrocast. This is what we use for people who want to do HD. And, it's much easier for me to have or for you to have at your studio, your importer exporter, your RDS encoder, your audio processor, everything's at your studio. It will then get ingested into the IPL unit, whether it's an IPL 100N or 100MP. We will then marry that E2X data straight to the packets of the audio or composite, and they will stay married throughout the transport system, whether you're using or whether you're using dynamic stream splicing through time diversity or path diversity or both, whether you're using SRT, no matter what path you're using, those two will always stay married because we're marrying them there at the origination point and not all the way at the transmitter end, and we have to try to synchronize them. So basically, once they get married and we adjust that time, and how we suggest you set up HD is, I always tell you, take your analog audio processor, set it for a hard 10 seconds. That's going to be your diversity delay. Hard 10 seconds. I'll ingest that information. Let's call it AS192 and a 100N. Your FMXI or your importer exporter is going to go ahead and do its coding, and we'll ingest that E2X data and marry it to the AES192, transport it out. Right now, I just happen to know that the transcoding delay on an FMXI is like 1.73 seconds. So we'll just adjust on the FMXI, we can adjust the latency or have the digital follow analog. If you do it automatically, if you have an off-air feed, that's great. You do it off-air. I have a project we just launched in March that the station studios are located in Seattle and the transmitters located in San Francisco. And he's running FM and HD, and they're doing it this way. And once we set that latency up and lock them together, he hasn't had any problems. They stay completely locked. There is no drifting. The reason why you drift is not because of the HD or anything. It's because of the path differences. You may be taking the same physical path, but the way ones and zeros work, they are not getting there at the same time. So as the buffering changes, the latency changes and whatnot, you're going to have all of these minor little shifts. And that's why the Justin follows it. And you have that bar, or whether it's the Bell R, the Justin, it all goes back and forth. We're marrying them. So to the entire path, it looks like one stream. It doesn't look like it's multiple things trying to get to the same destination. Oops. And then Intra Alert. Intra Alert's available for the 100C, E, and N. It comes with a 1 year subscription. Actually, right now, I think we're just selling it with the 5 year subscriptions. It's software based as well as app based. It allows you to monitor all your IPL 100E, C, and Ns. It sends a micro stream out. It gives you the ability to just look at the app and see what is running, whether it's an X, that means silent sense, or you have the exclamation mark, your stream's down. You see little VU bars if it's moving. This is all the actions and notifications are available through the smartphone app as well as web apps, and they're addressable by the email address logged in. So Mike might have all of his stations that's monitoring, and he has it all showed up on his phone, but his PD for one of his stations just gets to monitor the station that they're looking at. His general manager doesn't get to monitor anything. So yeah, you can set it up based on each user profile. Um, this is pretty good because it just allows you literally, it'll send you a little pop-up message. And Mike may not care about sound about dead air. He just, he's more worried about his IP connection going down or the stream failing, where the dead air may be, hey, the PD needs to worry about because they don't schedule the last 1 minute of whatever stream. It can monitor any incoming or outgoing stream or both at the same time. So you can, again, because our IPLs, even though they're bi-directional, they're really unidirectional. So you can have a stream coming in from A to B, and B could be sending out to Z, and you can monitor all those streams if you'd like. I'm going to jump over to the 100 real quick. Give me 1 second. Does anybody see that one?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the 100C. The 100N looks like the same thing except it says N there. And the E says E there. The only difference also going to be is in setup and system setup down here. You'll have on the 100N where you can actually set a display to show up on the screen. Usually some people put WABC 192.168.10.10 so you can look at the unit when it's on screensaver mode or what have you. The boxes do use NTP because not only do we want you to be able to time them directly if you wanted to, but just also I tell people to set that up. Just it's great for alarming and alerts, so you're not drifting off and thinking, well, when did that really happen? And if you're using the internal GPS, then you can use this in conjunction with the internal GPS. So this is basically your quick setup. If I were to do set up a normal stream, I can go in here and set up a channel. This is our inputs where you select your inputs. And this is also where I would select whether I'm doing AES3 and which would be MPX mode, and I could change the sample rates. If you notice here, we have different sample rates at 132, 162, 192. So there's no reason to sample anything above 132 if you don't have anything in the SCA area other than RDS. 132 is your FM plus RDS. If you're not running any 67 or 92, there's no reason to sample anything above that. Let's keep that bandwidth down. And then the sample width, you can set 12 bits. 12 bits is unique to us because that's basically what we're using for effective data rate. This would be 132 at 12 bits would be our 1.64 megabits per second. It doesn't reduce any quality or anything. It's a way we're shuffling ones and zeros into a particular amount of space. And then if you were set it for 16 bits, that would be the standard AES 192. For this would be for RDS and FM. Turn off that. And of course you have your analog AES3. This says mic input because there is a feature available in the 100C where you can actually throw a little daughter board in there and use the inputs as mic inputs if you wanted to. Outputs are the same way. You have your primary output, your secondary, and your tertiary, your backup. Backup is only active when it needs to go. Your primary and secondary streams, so you can have a primary stream and a secondary stream coming in from two different locations, same location, different flavors. But the backup stream is only becomes active when you need it. So this is where maybe you build your dynamic initiator stream that has to go over cellular or over satellite, or maybe this is where you're grabbing your IceCast or Shoutcast stream, because this is basically where you'll make your selections. Or maybe you want to have a local input. You have your maybe your automation system is your local input as a backup. And if the primary stream fails and you have a local automation system, you can go local feed that way and actually feed it in. You have your switch in and switch out, your silent thresholds, and whether you're monitoring the audio or not, and then the decibels, your silent threshold, if you would. Aux rate is your RS-232. Levels gives you a way to adjust levels, and then here's the audio processing. If I was making an audio processor, source is the input or the output, depending on where I want to put it. So if I put it on the input, I don't have any streams running right now, but I could set it that way. I'll build a quick stream here. So I'm going to build this stream, transmit. I'll just make it a local loopback. It's basically telling me I'm using uncompressed audio coming in. It's a local stream. It's using a local loopback. I could change all of this if I wanted to. If I wanted to make it opus and the bit rate there. Also, this is where I would adjust the PCM interval. How big is your packets? 10 milliseconds. So that's one, your PCM interval is that one packet's going to be 10 milliseconds worth of audio. How much FEC, priority, authentication ID. So not only can we secure the stream by using whatever source UDP port you want to use, and but also destination UDP port, but we also can add a 4, 5, or 6 digit authentication ID on here. So even if someone can get into your stream and listen to your stream, if the authentication ID is not 100% matched, it's not going to work. Enable contact closures acts, disable transmit on no activity, which is different than disable transmit on AES3 failure. AES3 does not mean no activity. That means you can have dead air, but the stream will stay on. That means it lost AES3 clock. Then it would fail. So if you wanted to do both, you could. So no activity disable, silent sends, and then if you lost clock failure, then disable the stream. A lot of people use that feature. If these are, you're leaving your stream nailed up for just to transport audio from one location to another, but there's not full-time audio on it, just sending information back and forth. No reason to send a bunch of data if there's no reason to. And then you have your timestamps. IP data, this is where the IP connect, this where allows us to basically say, okay, here's the source information. So source IP address, this would be what your FMXI or your exporter basically here. And the subnet destination, that's going to be the next gen card on the receive end, or that could be a subnet broadcast. So if you're sending this to multiple destinations or multiple X gen cards, you can make that 192.168.10.255, and everything on that subnet would be able to hear it. And if you wanted to, and we have stations that want to do this, they have their new importer exporter sitting on the main, their FMXI, and then their backup, they have their old HDE, HDI 200 sitting on that. So if this importer exporter ever fails, then they have a backup that could be up and running. And the status, so each stream has a status, reported status statistics. So this allows me to look at what I'm doing locally sending out, but then also every unit I'm sending to, I could look at the return status as long as it has a return path. The IPL units use port 50,000 to basically talk to each other. It's not mandatory, but they use 50,000 to talk back and forth to each other. That gives them the ability to look at your reports, your peer statistics. So as you're looking at this one stream sending out, you go, oh, look, I have this buffer rate, or I have this set up, or something's wrong here. And then you could look at your jitter, you look at your pad data coming in. So that's basically, this would be the IP connect data. And oops. And then you can look at counts or percentages. It's how people look at percentages, don't look at counts, because sometimes you look at counts, you think, oh, look how many packets I missed. But then you look at the percentages and you see it's 1/10 of 1%. Okay, well, you didn't miss any really packets. The real number you're really worried about is buffer resets. That's really the only thing that you're kind of worried about. When we build a stream, I can, if you see here, here's destination one. So this is this one stream. I can actually add another stream to this. With another set of ports, signaling port. If it's different, maybe this box, the signaling port's 50,000, but for some reason on this particular box, the signaling port is 40,000. So I can have a separate port set up for signaling and then delay. How much am I delaying this stream from leaving this box? Again, sometimes it has to be used, which is different than the buffering. We want to always delay the stream, 1 second before it leaves this box, and we'll worry about what happens on the other buffer side. And you could set that up here. And you can add, I think the limit is on the 100C, I think we put 25 streams per input. So you can just keep adding streams if you wanted to. Oops. And then of course what's universal about this stream is that it's going to be uncompressed. Now I can add another transmit stream. So this is stereo uncompressed. I can add another transmit stream, which is still going to use that same channel. All right, this is my second transmit stream, but now that's going to be Opus. So this stream, which is because there's only one channel unit, this is going to this destination as uncompressed linear audio, and then it's going to go to this destination as Opus. You could set those all up separately. And of course, you can also set up, as you're setting these up, in the forwarding table, you'll set up what path are they taking as the output. Sorry about that. Because again, we have 3 Ethernet ports. You can send it out, multiple Ethernet ports or one Ethernet port, or however you want to manage that your streams out. The receive side would be the same way. If I wanted to do a dynamic or where's it at? SRT, the remote IP. So this is a receive stream. It's telling me it's SRT, but this is where I'm basically going to be building the stream to come in. So that's the remote IP is what's going to end up being the sending unit. Here's your different advance. What's the worst case loss scenario? There you go. Run it at 10% loss. And then you get to set your PCM with your intervals and whatnot. And this will basically adjust its buffering and the request to receive packets back. If you have a really bad circuit that you have a lot of latency with, you can override the latency and add a hard factor in there if you wanted to. So if you've got something really bad and you need 2 seconds of buffering, you can do that. Again, the network interface, set up the different network interfaces, turn off whatever features you're not using on each network interface, lock it down. One of the other features with SRT, if you really, 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 really advanced, where's it at? Have to find it. You can add AES security to it if you wanted to. And you can add up to it's on the send unit. You can add up to I think it's 256 AES security to it. So no one's going to get in this thing if you have that much information, secure information you need to send. No one's gonna get into that box. Go ahead and get into that stream. Forwarding table, this is basically how we're assigning the streams, where they're going. It allows us to set a gateway for each one of the streams so it knows how to talk out to the world and how to use different paths. We have to do it here. We do it a forwarding table here because we share one OSI stack between all the Ethernet ports. So this is a way that we won't allow someone to come in on a rogue port or on a rogue stack. So we basically lock it down that way. ARP table is just enabled to ARP out. That's one of the utilities. and then also you could do a trace route. You could ping a network delay. If you had a network delay in the system, it will add that network delay and path MTU utility. MTU, a transmission unit, maximum transmission unit. That's important. If you're running any Kodak, ours or anybody, into a VPN, most Kodaks have their MTU path set for 1500, right? Come on. MTU size 1500. That's just the default. But if you're running into a tunnel, your tunnel is using some overhead. So your tunnel is probably around 1438 is going to be usable maximum transmission unit. If you don't adjust your Kodak to match the tunnel size, you end up creating fragmentation. Now, this will handle it just fine, but let's not create more work for everything if we don't have to. So we basically, anytime someone says, "Hey, I'm having this problem," or "I'm seeing buffer loss," or I'm seeing dropouts," are you running a VPN? Yes. What's your tunnel size? And I usually get, "What's that mean?" Um, and then I'm going, okay, let's run a utility, and we'll run this quick utility, and it'll tell us the maximum tunnel's like 1438. Then we go into the admin, we set the tunnel, reboot the unit, and you get to set each WAN port separately. So maybe one WAN port's over a tunnel, and the other one's just a private bridge or something like that. So we can adjust the latency or adjust the maximum transmission unit per Ethernet port. And again, it just gets rid of any fragmentation, and let's let the boxes work as most efficient as possible. There's your quick overview. Any questions?
If you have a question for Tony, just press your space bar or alternate A. These are really nice boxes, Tony. And one thing that you told me, which I think I'll just prompt you, have they ever been hacked?
Nope. Nope. Thank you. Of course, now that I said it, some little 13-year-old kid out there is going to hack this thing. No, none of these boxes have been hacked. We have enough. So I know somebody who has legacy boxes have often called and go, "Hey, how come I can't get to the web page interface?" Because we have ports set up, and if someone keeps trying to hack at it, and it could be not a person, there's a lot of software out there that just starts sniffing ports, and we see that. So we actually start locking down the web page interface. We'll just hunker it down. And there's a utility for that. There's to unlock it. The new in the 100 EC and N, we actually have the ability to it's after it times out, it unlocks the ports. So we've been pretty lucky that way. No one's hacked these boxes.
Very nice.
Steve, I didn't see you on here. Welcome.
Now, if you were showing the audio processor, talking about pre and post,
Yep.
and again, something you said to me that I think is worth mentioning. It's a good replacement for a compeller,
Yeah,
which
if
is
you want to run this as a preprocessor, you could absolutely put this in, and let me get to that channel. So I'm going to run this as the processor as the input, right? And you could definitely run this as a preprocessor.
because compellers are no longer made.
Right. And so this is the less more. If you really want to get in trouble. Ta-da. This gives you the ability. I mean, it has some pretty robust features in this with loudness control and bass enhancements and equalization and stereo processing and multiband limiting and imaging enhancement and mono mix down. There's a lot of stuff in here. I've wasted hours playing with this and getting process presets set up. If it's in the 100E card itself, you can go ahead and turn on, if you need preemphasis turned on. If you're running it as the output of the 100C and take an AES 192 out, you can run it right into the exciter, and we can do all the preemphasis here. But yeah, you can run this as hard as you want or run it as soft as you want. We do have people that are running this on the front end and just using it to just maintain their levels coming into their IPL unit as they're sending streams out to multiple destinations.
Hello, Tony. I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Greetings from the base of Mount Diablo in the Bay Area.
Oh, nice. Yep.
I hear about a lot of the stuff going on you referenced out here. US are in Synchrocast, which I understand. Are you involved in the geocasting, which I guess the FCC is just approved, right?
They are using IPL gear on their when they do their in most of their installs for their multiple Synchrocast, but it's the geocast is unique to what they're doing. It has to do with geo-targeting. I'm not directly involved in that. I know that Geo has used and Bert has used IPL units on a lot of their installs, but I haven't. I'm not involved in that geo portion of it with the micro stations and all of that stuff. I'm not sure how they're doing that.
Yeah, usually Bert's on this call, but he's in the thick of all this stuff and lives not too far north here. So thank you much.
My pleasure.
Hey, Tony, I had an SFN question.
Yes.
Looking at the diagram you put up there, if I've got an existing station running HD and I'm going to add one booster and everything is up at the transmitter before I add the one booster as far as the main HD, operation, HD1 and HD2 in this case.
The FMXI or your importer exporter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all that's up at the transmitter site.
Yep.
Okay, I see your drawing. Can I leave it at the transmitter site?
Yeah, that just becomes your origination point then.
Right.
So,
that's what I was thinking.
And what I've suggested and people have done in the past is, we still want you to use a 100 MP or 100N. We want to ingest composite with your E2X data. So we want to take let's say we use the 100 MP. We'll take the composite out of your audio processor, the E2X data into a localized 100 MP. We can, the cheap way of doing it, and I say it this way, is to just do a local loopback and take that local loopback and feed it into the local transmitter. The preferred way, and to give you a little redundancy, is to make it act like it's the studio. So your 100 MPs at your studio, it's connected to your FMX or your importer exporter, your audio processing, your ODS, ingest it. We'll send a stream over to what will be the transmitter unit, and then we'll send a stream out to the receive unit, to the booster unit.
Mm-hmm.
That is the preferred way of doing that. Especially depending on how much timing we need to add, or how much buffer we need to add based on the path latency from your main transmitter site to your booster site.
Okay.
How's that path exist now, or doesn't it?
It doesn't exist yet. No,
Can you get a 950 path?
No, not in LA.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's in LA? No. So no, so you're going to end up, so then you're going to be somewhere in the 75 microseconds to 150 microsecond range if you're using, AT&T or somebody out there.
Right.
Yeah, then yes, you could leave everything up there, and you can use, what is your exciter? What's your current
Fax
transmitter?
50. It's all fax, and fax 30K, fax 50.
So then
FMXI.
what I would suggest is let's do the 100 MP to act as the quote unquote studio unit. Then we use the 100E inside the exciter, and then your booster
at the main transmitter site.
Yep, at the main transmitter site, and then at the booster it will be a fax transmitter with a 100E in it, and you're pretty much good to go at that point. We want the GPS units because the 100E uses the GPS built inside the exciter. We want the GPS unit inside your exciters, and the 100 MP wouldn't need a GPS unit because we'll take the 10 meg and 1 PPS out of your exciter and feed the 100 MP with it.
Okay, we'll keep talking. Future project next year.
Yep.
And then second thing, I have a couple of 100Cs between LA and Chicago, San Francisco, an originating 100C with 3 different connections on it, Miami, Chicago, San Francisco. And I just ran your little MTU utility, and it's all on AT&T fiber, and just came back with 1,500.
Yeah, but because you're not running a VPN.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. If you're running that AT&T, whatever they call it, City WAN or whatever, they're handing you an Ethernet port. So
Mhm.
their VPN's actually above that.
Yeah, right.
This is for people that have a cable modem and they put a Cisco, or an ASUS router on there and create, a PPTP tunnel or something like that. That's where you have to worry about having setting your maximum transmission unit.
It also reported as the last line, incorrect ICMP packet received. So that was kind of odd. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it did that on both the test I did to San Francisco and Chicago.
So
Yeah.
AT&T is screwing with it a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, it is a VLAN on their big,
Right.
shared network. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was 5 days, by the way, not 4.
Oh, it's been 5 days.
We did an NS workshop here in LA, Barry.
Uh-huh.
And Tony was the last speaker, of course, in the party. It was a good show.
It was a 1-day flight. I flew out Friday, got to LA at 5, got to the hotel in Pasadena at 8, which is 12 miles, but it took 3 hours. So someone was dying on the way. I was going to kill people. And then I took the red eye home on Saturday after the NS. So it was a long flight back and forth.
And then you came back again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's one thing that's it's interesting, and we mentioned this over the last couple of weeks. There have been more and more programs pre-packing to the NAB, not just the Nautel, not just PREC, the NS, BEA. In fact, it seemed like there was a lot more people going for the week before the NAB than staying maybe 1 or 2 days into the NAB show.
Yep.
Any other questions that you might have for Tony on the Intraplex or the little? I just love the idea that something new to replace the compeller. Great box compeller, just can't get them anymore.
Hey, Tony, I've got a question. We have a couple of dozen of the 5 and 6 year old IPL units out in the field, feeding from our headquarters and also feeding back and forth to our stations. If we started to upgrade into the ends, are these, I guess, backwards compatible?
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're using stream splicing, which is a godsend. We're using that everywhere, so we could continue with. We don't have to replace everything at once. We could just replace it as we go along.
Right. And I mean, if you've had those boxes that long, you probably haven't done a firmware update anytime recently, because they once they work, people usually don't screw with them at all. So
I learned not to do the firmware upgrade, because if it's not already right, you just brick the box.
Right. Right. And there is a box that's 5 or 6 years old at this point is going to have a couple of boot ROM upgrades at the same time. So you got to do those correctly. And there's a certain path, but we can bring those boxes up to the latest version, which a new version for the legacy IPLs came out about 5 months ago. And then they're fully compatible. All the IPL units are all compatible with each other. So, and that's what's unique about the Ascent platform, is that we can take a legacy box and any coding that we're using or anything and bring it right into the new Ascent platform, and the new Ascent platform will support it with no problem.
Perfect.
Last question from me, Tony, on the Intra alert.
Yep.
Didn't know about that, so I'm going to research that a little bit. But I've got a bunch of 100s, no suffix.
Right. Those are legacy. They're not compatible. Only the E, C, and N. And Mike, drop me some MAC addresses for the C's that you have. I know you got some C's there. Drop me some MAC addresses. I've
got a lot of C's.
Yeah.
Like
I'll get you some demos on the Intra alert.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Other questions, friends? We've come up on an hour here. So I fear Tony is going to need to go. Well, you don't have to go, Tony. You're welcome to stay and chat with us.
And I appreciate the invite, guys, and thank you very much for the time today. I know everybody's busy doing radio things or TV things.
And there's your contact information up on the screen with you. So that's good.
Yep. And available for bar mitzvahs, weddings, and smokers.
Well, I hope to see you next year at the NAB show with some more additions to the line, and certainly appreciate your taking the time to demonstrate them for us.
Yeah, the big push for us right now is I've got 2 coders that are working on the playback system for streaming, not only the local insertion, but also long form playback and storage. What's unique about the Ascent platform is that there's 2 memory slots available that weren't populated when we shipped the boxes. So we can put a 256 gig memory card in there, and that's a lot of memory for stored audio. It'll have logs. I mean, the demo version I've been running at the house here, testing with I have a little DJB automation system here at the house, and I've been testing it. So I'm been sending logs to it. It's been playing back and actually giving me an aired log. So it tells me a time date stamp on when the audio cart plays. It has the ability of stacking audio carts into what we call an element. So we can have an element that's supposed to start through either a GPIO, a virtual GPIO, or through a data text stream for those that are running, Wide Orbit or Next Gen or Zeta, where you can send a blank cart ID with a text in the cart ID or the cart description, and we can ingest that information and then start an element. An element could have 5 or 6 different carts in it. So it's pretty neat. They've been working diligently on this because it's something that we have a big customer who's doing a big rebuild and this is going to be part of their product, their facility rebuild. And so it makes a perfect thing for us to push out to the broadcast world.
Excellent.
This is a non-broadcaster. Well, it's sort of a broadcaster, but a non terrestrial broadcaster that we're doing a big 300 automation system rebuild.
Okay, great. Thank you again.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you very much.